On today's episode of the Nitschke Podcast, it's brought to you today by the team at First National Real Estate Nitschke. We are your one-stop shop for all aspects of real estate throughout the Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu Peninsula. So whether you're looking at buying a property, selling a property, renting a property, or investing in property, our team can help you right through the local area. We're local people, we're passionate about the area, and our down-to-earth approach you'll find quite relatable, and we're really passionate about educating you and helping you throughout whichever part of the property ladder you and your family are on. So please do not hesitate to reach out to our team. You can reach us on our website, which is nitschke.com.au, nitschke.com.au. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the role of a property manager and why it's absolutely essential if you're looking at investing in real estate. But first, I'm going to comment on shortly the latest market news and statistics and what's been going on, as well as a couple of really important news articles that have come across my desk over the last week that relate to property in our area. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really enjoying the podcast as it grows week in, week out. And I appreciate any of you that are tuning in today, watching live this morning. I'd absolutely love it if you could comment live, if you're watching live. And if you're a client that's watching the replay, that's also awesome. I really value your time and thank you for tuning in. Again, I'd love it if you could comment replay if you're tuning in later on. And if you like our content, I should say, it would be fantastic and it would really help our show if you could hit the share button just to continue to get the message out there and to reach more people so that we can help them on their property journey as well. Fantastic. So let's start talking about the market news first of all. It still remains a very strong seller's market in our local area. We've seen the median value is increased from 12 months ago, sitting at 5.3% up on a year ago. And that's sitting currently at 419,000 in the Mount Barker area. We've also seen that the number of listings continues to be down on a year ago. So there's less houses for sale or less property for sale than 12 months ago. We're sitting at basically 13.4% less than a year ago, which is really interesting. So it's quite a tight market if you're looking to find a home right now. The rental market, the rental yield has increased, sitting at 0.4%, up to 5.22% on a year ago. So it's sitting at 5.22% as a yield, I should say, talking in riddles. So it's an increase of 0.4%, now sitting at 5.22% yield. And our median rent in our local area is sitting at $375 a week. So I guess, in short, another way to explain that is that the market continues to be really good for both sellers and investors that are looking at finding a tenant or a buyer. And buyers that are looking at finding a property right now or prospective tenants that are looking, it is more challenging than it has been a year ago. So certainly there are quality buyers looking and fantastic tenants out there that would be great applicants for prospective properties that are missing out because there's just not the stock available. So if you're considering either renting out your property or selling yours, it could be the perfect time, particularly with the beautiful weather that's starting to come in through that spring season. It's been really interesting just from a news point of view. There's been a couple of interesting developments this week. The first one, and perhaps the most significant, and it does relate to tenants right now, is that their eviction moratorium has been extended. So that was initially looking at expiring at the end of September, so the end of this month, so coming up very soon. And that's been put forward, I believe, by the National Cabinet, but it's been put forward to Parliament to be extended until the 28th of March next year. And at the moment, my understanding is it's just South Australia and Victoria that have done that. Fun fact as well, moratorium is also a word that I learned how to say this year. I've had to say it a lot. It's been in the news a lot with obviously the changes due to COVID. But look, It's ultimately a good thing. What it means is that tenants cannot be evicted from existing leases, and existing leases can't be increased in terms of a rental increase if they're facing a renewal between today and I guess the end of March. And it's really just to help people that have been affected through this awful pandemic in 2020 to get back on their feet. It makes complete sense in Victoria, and my heart goes out to everyone affected by what's been happening in Victoria. It's great to see their numbers are starting to come down and things are getting back on track, but obviously economically, the effects of that are going to remain for much longer over there. But it also makes sense in South Australia. I think whilst our economy is certainly quite strong and people are out and about spending money, there's certainly been people that have been affected. I know some of our great tenants have been affected over the last 6 to 12 months. So it's great to have that extra support as they get back on their feet. So that's been a positive one. The other important one, and this one is the sort of news that can fly under the radar a little bit because it's a scheme that's been out for a little while. It was actually first announced, I believe, it was launched in September last year, but it's basically the starter loan scheme from the state government, which is to assist new home buyers in getting into the market. And what they've actually done is they've expanded it by about $3 million in terms of the main change they've done is they've actually looked at changing the income criteria. So what the loan scheme does is it actually is an interest-free loan of up to $10,000 for 5 years to help new home buyers get into the market. And it's really designed to help, to get around obviously assisting to save for a deposit, but also to assist with other upfront costs, like stamp duty, which ironically enough goes back to the state government anyway, but we won't go there. We might tackle that on another episode. So what it means is that now singles that have a net household income of less than 65,000, so it was 52,000, they've increased it to 65, which is good, can qualify, and couples with a net household income of less than 90,000. So again, that's up from 60. So that's quite significant for couples, $30,000 increase in eligibility criteria. So what do you need to know to qualify? You need to head to homestart.com.au. And it's obviously through Homestart, and they'll have all the details there. So a couple of interesting news articles there for this week. The article of the day, or the topic of the day, though, is we're going to talk about the essential role of a property manager. This is something I'm super passionate about. And look, obviously I've got a vested interest in saying that, managing a real estate business, but it's just the difference between having a good property manager and managing it yourself can be transformational in terms of how the investing experience can go, the financial impact of that, and in terms for you as a landlord, obviously making sure that you're getting the best return possible from your asset to ultimately help you grow your wealth and end up retiring, and retiring as you should. And so essentially, look, sometimes you get the comment that, hey, can't I just do this myself? Once you've got a tenant in there, is it really that hard to manage a rental property? It's more than just collecting rent from tenants and handling repairs. There's a lot. I mean, obviously there's the practical aspect of property management. So that's everything from obviously, first of all, tenant selection. So making sure that you have a process in place to do that very, very well. Collecting rent, yes, that's important, and obviously arrears management, arranging repairs and completing regular inspections. So that's all the normal stuff that you'd expect from a property manager. But part of the property management cost, and really in our agency's eyes, often one of the most important part of our role is actually the emotional support for our landlords and also our tenants. We find that our clients really like having a great contact in between that they can lean on for support as they go through the process. It's really important to understand that managing another property is like having a second job. It's quite involved if you're looking at managing the property yourself, particularly if you're having to learn the legislative requirements and also obviously the practical aspects, as well as then that emotional side as well. So it's a really important question, I think, to ask is, do you have the mental capacity and the free time to actually manage a second house? There's obviously some people that do have that skill set and they are able to manage a property privately, but I would suggest that in reality, most people don't. You know, if you're working full time, you might be married with kids and got other things going on. It's pretty hard to make sure that you do a really good job of obviously managing your investment property and doing that properly. So we're trained, our team are really highly trained to maximize your weekly rental income. And really we have also a duty of care for your property and also the people that live there. And so we often find that when investors try and self-manage, they tend to focus a lot on the logistics and perhaps don't go to that extra step of satisfying the tenants. And as much as we really recognize that when we're managing a property on behalf of a landlord, that of course the landlord, you guys are ultimately the ones that are paying us in terms of a management fee. We do understand how important a great relationship with your tenant is going to be in terms of the long-term health of your property and ultimately your experience as a property investor. So we do actually invest in both of those relationships and make sure that they're functioning at a really high level. Quite often, when a tenant is renting from a landlord privately, they can feel a little bit like the boss is breathing down their neck. So they don't really have that kind of middle manager that they can lean on for support or feel comfortable raising things. So sometimes incidental maintenance cannot be reported, and then you can end up with a more significant issue with your property down the track because the tenants perhaps just didn't feel comfortable reporting it to you, or there was something they were uncomfortable with along the way. We also, there's a lot of unique aspects to our business in terms of how we run our property management processes and systems. We're a highly systemized business, process driven. We believe that it really is about the process, not the promise of great service. If we can have a system in place and then deliver that with warmth and empathy and great service, that's really what our clients are looking for. So a couple of unique aspects for us in terms of how we handle maintenance is we actually have a full-time team member in D who is our maintenance manager. And so we're able to oversee maintenance across our whole portfolio. And rather than relying on an app to actually, like a lot of companies will use software or an app to report maintenance, and often the property manager doesn't respond to it quick enough, we're able to give that personalized service and jump on it straight away. So that's just one example of the advantages of having a highly skilled and highly trained property management team on board, just from a maintenance point of view. And it's important as well that, as a landlord, your obligations still, even if you're doing it as a private landlord, you still need to provide a safe, clean and livable environment for your tenants. So a great example of that is, and it's fairly topical at the moment because it is an annual thing that comes up, and it's around this time that comes up for a lot of property management companies, but it's making sure that your smoke alarms are compliant in your investment property and keeping up with those sort of aspects of compliance. It's pool compliance, and then obviously it's just the general legislative requirements. And 2020 has been a massive year for changes in legislation, obviously with all things COVID, and our team have remained really agile, communicated that through to our clients and made sure that we're operating obviously lawfully and doing the right thing to get through this pandemic and everything we've been going through so far this year. I guess if we could sum it up, we really do believe that it does boil down to that relationship and the emotional support on top of the practical side that we're able to provide. That really is the point of difference for, in my mind, managing a property yourself versus employing the services of the property manager. And we really believe that it's that property manager landlord relationship that is really the secret ingredient to having happy tenants and ultimately a fruitful investment. So that's our topic for today. I think a property manager is absolutely essential. I'm also so biased in saying that, but I don't care because it's the right advice. You really do need to look at getting a property manager. If you have a good property manager on board, it's going to be a great experience for you, and you'll be able to ultimately build your wealth, build your portfolio, and plan towards retirement using one of the best assets there are in real estate. So thank you so much for tuning in today, folks. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday and great week ahead. And I look forward to speaking with you again on the next Nitschke podcast. Thanks so much.